Rezn is a Virginia-born and eventually Chicago, Illinois relocated heavy psychedelic doom metal band who began probably more along the lines of like a wind hand or that step beyond the sort of musical step beyond Electric Wizard and sleep into something just a little bit more colorful, more psychedelic, and more decidedly in a more common American stoner doom metal style that developed much more so beyond 2005 to 2015 or so. So they've always been a bit of a jam band based on just what their bio says about being very young and jamming together for several years before forming the band, and a lot of their sound references heavy psychedelic rock without going retro with it necessarily. So their early records um, are definitely in another style that is still related to what they're doing now. They're just doing it less often and less typically. So uh, we'll get to a clip just so you can get a feeling for what I'm talking about. So I hate to talk about Electric Wizard all the time. It is an important band, and their first record is more of a psychedelic doom metal record that goes on longer, more atmospheric tangents. And there have been many bands who've done that since, but that was kind of a '95 thing that was important then. And this band touches upon the ethereal psychedelic rock side of things, the um, more just ambient and I would say psychedelia improper, the way they approach things, and this shows up more and more as you go through their discography. Calm Black Water was their album that hit upon the heaviest stuff, the best combination of songwriting and heaviness, and that was an important record to get me in the door to appreciate what this band was all about, and I appreciated they're independent too. Um, they developed a very distinct style at that point, and back in 2020, they decided to uh, break that apart, break it into pieces, and start focusing on different types of songs that were maybe a little bit more ethereal rock sided, a little bit more experimental in a lot of ways, using vocals in a different way, playing with different vocal timbre to make a more varietal experience. And it definitely felt like they cut their sound apart, but found a lot of interesting nodes in there. And they've applied a lot of that to this much more contiguous, much more sewn together follow up with longer pieces that definitely hit peaks and valleys and points of rest that are really important to the listening experience. I think that's the big thing to say about this album is that it is a listening experience. You do have to be patient. If you're all about action and riffs, you might not really get excited about this thing until you hit maybe the 20-minute mark or so. So this one was one to be patient with. I thought it was more than a grower. I think these songs really showed their quality pretty quickly as I went through the album several times. And rather than go through a play-by-play because these are kind of involved and experiential pieces, I think it's better just to go sink into it yourself and understand that if you're just there for the riffs, there are songs that I've suggested you just jump to, but it starts out very patient, and you're going to have to be patient too to get into it. And then the nuance of everything will show up later on. We're not quite as jazz inflected as the previous album was, but that part of that is still there. The wind hand sounding side of the band is still there. It's just that it's not thrown upon you at every moment. They build to it in a very smart way that isn't quite post rock, but it is psychedelic rock and it is heavy. So obviously I really enjoyed this album. Um, More of a moderately high recommendation just because there were a couple pieces that I didn't completely gel with. It took me a while to consider it in terms of lyrics, and overall, I think it is one of their better records. It's maybe second to one, their more direct style, which I enjoy more. There are some big moments that are worth approaching if you like psychedelic doom metal in this style, and you'd like to see where they took things over time. I think this is the most interesting they've ever been, and it's the best full album they've written. So it should grow in value over time. I think these albums naturally do. So uh, go ahead and there's a lot more detail to read in the review, and go listen to it yourself.